God cares about children. God cares about what's happening to our children. He cares about what your kids are watching on television. He cares about what they're being taught in the schools right now. He cares about the messaging that's coming out of the American Library Association. God cares about children. And if God cares about children, we need to care about them too. And so we're going to talk about that today, how we protect the innocence of our children. I have never seen an assault that was leveled against children like I am watching happening in the culture right now. Doesn't matter if it's the Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or the disgusting organization formerly known as Disney. God's children are being attacked, and they're being attacked for a very simple reason. When our children come to us, they come to us with minds that are impressionable and hearts that are yearning to be taught. Your children actually intrinsically know what a woman is. Your kids know, but our Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, apparently doesn't know because she's not a biologist. But the truth of the matter is, it's not that Ketanji Brown Jackson doesn't know what a woman is. It's that she is a slave and a puppet to the left. She knows what a woman is. She's a coward and will not say it out loud. That's what's happening in our country right now. And if we don't begin to tell the truth again, if it doesn't bother us, if we don't start showing up at school board meetings, well, you say to me, why should we go to a school board meeting? We have made the wise and good decision to pull our children out of the public schools. I'm going to tell you why. Listen up. Because the students, there are over 50 million children in the public school system right now in America. 50 million. These are tomorrow's teachers, tomorrow's doctors, tomorrow's judges, tomorrow's police officers. These are tomorrow's parents, and they are tomorrow's grandparents. And we need to care about what's happening to these kids. It's why 8 years ago I started showing up at school board meetings. People are like, what are you doing here? Your kids have never been in this school. I'm here because God cares about children. And if God cares about children, we need to care about them too. So yes, by all means, pull your children out of these disgusting, broken institutions, but don't pull yourself out. Stay in there. Pay attention. Pay attention to the curriculum that's being taught to our children. They're being taught critical race theory. They're being taught that there's 400 genders and they can be a narwhal whale on Friday if they want to be. They're being taught that their country is inherently racist and they're moving people into victim classes. Rather than teaching our kids to be victors, we're teaching them to be victims. We're teaching them to look at themselves in a way that's antithetical to how God sees them. And so we want to teach. Why does it matters? It matters that your kids think that these kids think that they evolved from an ape. If you think you're nothing more than an animal, then why should you care about what's happening to the children in your neck of the woods? Why should we care? We should care because God cares, and there is no neutral ground in the fight for the hearts and minds of our kids. This is our fight. This is our battle. And I'm going to encourage you today with everything that's in me to get off the bench and onto the battlefield to engage in the hostile takeover of the education system in this nation. Now, I don't have time today, and I wish I was speaking on it here this weekend, but I'm not. I have gone all over the country for the past several years teaching the history of the public education system. People say to me all the time, well, the education system is broken. I'm here to tell you it is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is actually functioning perfectly according to the people who designed it. Many of these people, Robert Owen, Horace Mann, these people were socialists and collectivists who believed that children should become the property of the state. Well, when you send your child to an education system starting at the age of 5 all the way to 18, guess what? They do become the property of the state. Why do you think that so many people, when the government said, stand on this line 6 feet apart, don't move, put a mask on your face, don't question it, get an experimental vaccine, that so many Americans did it? Because they've been taught to obey. They've been taught to listen. When the bell rings, we stand up. Bam, we know how to follow orders. This is the exact thing that the schools were designed to do, and so they're working perfectly. We need to pull our children out of these schools and teach them how to think critically. In Oregon right now, you don't have to be proficient in reading, writing, or arithmetic to get a high school diploma. And in fact, if you'll watch what's coming out of the National Educators Association, every single year they are lowering the standards for our children. Our children are being dumbed down year after year after year while they're being indoctrinated into leftist ideology and sexual ideology that is stealing the hearts and minds and innocence of our children. This is our fight. It should matter to us. 2 years ago, I ran for Congress in Washington State's 3rd Congressional District, and I ran on a platform of education reform. And so many people were like, why do you care about what's going on? The federal government isn't involved in education. What? The federal government, let me get this straight. You think that the federal government is not involved in education. Have you ever heard of the Department of Education? Which, by the way, should be abolished and burned to the ground, right? That's your tax dollars. That's your tax dollars. But this is our fight. And I'm going to give you a little bit of history of what's been going on now for many, many years. This came out in September of 2019 from the New York Times. And they reported in September of 2019, this is what they said. Last year, tech companies reported over 45 million online photos and videos of children being sexually abused, more than double what they found in the previous year. In 1998, there were over 3,000 reports of child sexual abuse imagery. So when you look at this thing, what you're seeing is each dot represents 100 reports. Just over a decade later, reports soared past 100,000. In 2014, that number surpassed 1 million for the first time. And last year, there were 18.4 million, more than 1/3 of the total ever reported. More than 1/3 of the total ever reported. These reports included over 45 million images and videos flagged as child sexual abuse. I'm here to tell you right now that your children are being targeted on purpose. What's happening at our southern border is not an accident. What's happening at our southern border is absolutely on purpose. Think about what's happening to our kids right now. Our children are being attacked. Their innocence is being taken away from them. In the state of California, they're trying to pass laws, and in fact, they've already done it. And the wording sounds good, right? We want to teach our children about consent. In kindergarten in California right now, that's the big deal. Teach your children about the word consent. Why are they doing that? It's funny. It was a funny thing that happened just a few months later when they passed another law that said if a child is sexually assaulted or sexually abused, if that child understood the word consent, then the pedophile who abused them is not responsible. You understand what's happening? This is not an accident. The sex trafficking that's going on in our country is not an accident right now, and a lot of this is coming out of our schools. A lot of it's coming on social media, and a lot of it is because our children are being exposed to things at very early ages that they were never designed to be exposed to. I mean, as adults, we shouldn't be exposed to this garbage, and yet here we are. We're talking about what a woman is. What a stupid time we are living in right now. We've had the greatest generation. This is the dumbest generation. And not only are we falling victim to it, we have been failing to teach our children how to discern a lie from the truth. And so I want to talk about it today because there are actually things that you can do. I consider cell phones and smartphones and all the other things that are tablets, everything that our kids have access to right now are literal portals for demonic activity into their little hearts and their minds. And a lot of us, including myself, did not understand the danger that these things pose. So when we got our first smartphones, we didn't understand what was coming, right? And so when they said you can have an upgrade, we took the upgrade, right? We all took the upgrade. And what did we do with our phones that were left over? Most of us gave those to our children. This was by design. We gave those phones to our children. Our children have access to the internet. They can access Wi-Fi. All they got to do is go down to Chick-fil-A and access the Wi-Fi, and Lord only knows what they're going to get on their phones. And so parents need to be aware of what's going on with your children. If they've got a device, if they've got a tablet, if they've got a Kindle, if they've got a smartphone, pay attention to what's going on with your kids. What can you do? Well, the first thing is don't assume that the apps that your children are using are safe. Do not assume, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Instagram, I don't care what it is. Don't assume that these apps are safe for your children. We want to install parental controls on our kids' phones. Our daughter, our 13-year-old, has a phone, largely because I travel all the time and I want her to be able to get a hold of me. And we made sure when we gave her that phone that thing was locked down. And I can see through an app on her phone what she sees on her phone. So I can track her history on the internet. I can track who she's talking to. I can track who she's texting. I can control who she's texting. A lot of parents don't realize that these permissions are available for you, or we're so confused by them. I think that might even be a bigger issue. We're so confused by them that we just give up. Pay attention to what's going on your kids' phones. Next thing is don't give your kids a smartphone. How about we just don't do that? Okay, I want to go back to dumb phones. I like dumb phones. I like to go back to dumb phones. And you can still buy a dumb phone. You can still go and get a dumb phone for your kids. How about we stop giving our kids smartphones? And then finally, do your homework. I'm going to put some slides up in a couple of moments. They're going to have some apps that I want you to watch out for. So when you leave here today or sometime tonight, if your kids have access to the internet, check and see, are they on these apps? So important. There's something that sociologists and research are calling the validation vortex. And what this is what they term it is the pursuit of likes and followers. And they're saying it can shift the focus of the child from external validation and overshadows the nurturing and the communication that we give to your child, and it affects their self-esteem. We see this all the time. And we're seeing it in children largely because the adults are having this problem, right? We are giving up everything in pursuit of platform. Right? How many likes can we get? How many follows can we get? How many comments can we get on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever other social media thing that we're experiencing right now? And if adults don't have a handle on it, I guarantee you your children are going to be addicted. I guarantee it. We've got to pay attention. I saw a wonderful pastor talking about this the other day, and he was saying, if your son or your daughter, but if your son especially is downstairs in his parents' basement on video games, take the video games away from him and take him outside. Take him fishing. Let him know that he is needed in the culture. Call your boys up. Stop calling them out and start calling them up. They need to know that they are needed in the world, that there is a place for them that extends beyond the four walls of their homes and the video games that our children are addicted to. Take your children away from these things. I'm so happy to see so many of you here at the Creation Museum and at the Ark Encounter this weekend. Parents need to engage with their children again. Your sons need to know that they are needed and necessary. Your daughters need to know that God has a plan and a purpose for their lives, and they can't know it if they're buried in their phones and their electronic devices half of the time of their life.